Something's happened here. You still hearing me?
I am, yes. Can you hear me?
I can. Yeah, the screen, the Zoom screen's changed.
Yes, the screen right now is our intro.
I'm not seeing that, but as long as I'm seeing you and you're seeing me, that's fine.
Okay, perfect. Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I am so excited to present to you today Peter Deadman as part of our Meet the Master series for Florida State Oriental Medical Association. And today's conversation with Mr. Peter Deadman is going to be on Chinese Medicine and Forestry Trust. Now, Peter Deadman is a world-renowned scholar and expert in acupuncture and Oriental medicine. He is the co-founder of Infinity Foods, a natural and organic food business in the UK, and of the Brighton Natural Health Centre educational charity. He is the author of a cookbook, Nature's Food, the world's famous acupuncture textbook, A Manual of Acupuncture, and another book on the yangsheng nourishment of life called Live Well, Live Long. He is the founder of the Journal of Chinese Medicine and has worked in the field of healthcare for nearly 50 years. To let that sink in, that's about 1969, and has been practicing Chinese medicine for 30 years and is an international lecturer and teacher of qigong. Today, I have the joy of chatting with him on his new venture, the Chinese Medicine Forestry Trust, a trust that he co-founded with Charlotte Whitestone, Jeremy Marshall, Effie Love, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the Chinese Medicine Forestry Trust. It is a charity that has been set up to promote planetary human and species health and well-being by planting trees and protecting forests throughout the world. All the donations that you make will be shared equally among the Woodland Trust, the World Land Trust, and Tree Nation. And definitely check out ChineseMedicineForestryTrust.com for more information. There's some really cool articles there. It's linked to the Journal of Chinese Medicine. So there's a lot of good content for you to read and to learn. Trees, you had written on the website, and I wanted to read. Trees absorb carbon dioxide, counter pollution, give forth life, giving oxygen, prevent flooding, and promote biodiversity by providing a home and food for thousands of species. Spending time amidst trees can enhance our physical and mental health, reflecting the love of nature embodied within Chinese medicine. So welcome, Peter. How are you doing today?
I'm good. The only thing is I've lost you. I can't see you. Presumably you can see and hear me.
I can see you. I think it might be the layout for your video. So on the top.
I'm going to take a risk and press on a thing that says click here to join the meeting. Do you think that's okay?
Well, you're already in the meeting with me.
Okay. I just can't see you. It's hard to talk to somebody when you can't see them, but never mind. Let's
ask our viewers. We have a couple of people with us today. If you can see both Peter and myself, write in the chat box an emoji, a thumbs up, make sure that our audio is good. You can hear me, you can hear him. So please take a moment to just write in the chat box. We want to make sure that you guys are part of our conversation today as well. So let's see. Okay, so I have, yeah, they can see us. Whoever talks takes the screen for me. I guess you're on your phone. I can see you and also see him, but one at a time. I think that's a phone thing. Not
Okay,
sure if we're
I
supposed to see
still
both.
can't see you, but never mind. Let's go.
Perfect.
Let's hit the road. Yeah,
So how are you doing today, Peter?
I'm good, thanks. Yeah, it's Friday. I have a very tight, very sort of busy schedule, Monday to Thursday. Just my work, and also I have lots of qigong classes. So I now have a kind of a 3-day weekend. Friday's quite a light day, and I already feel I'm on a bit of a holiday. So it's nice.
Nice.
And it's not raining. It's been raining here for days and days and days and days. It's been biblical. So
So do you have some sun today, or it's just
today we have sun, yeah.
Nice, good. Hopefully you can go out and enjoy it.
Thank you.
Well, I'm in Miami, and even though it's November and you would think we'd get some coolness, it's still like the middle of summer. We definitely don't get seasonal changes here.
Wow.
Yeah. So tell us about the trust. Tell us about your journey with it. How did, what inspired you?
Okay. I mean, you know, that's a simple question that could have quite a long and complicated answer. So I'll answer in a particular kind of way. I'll try and relate it to Chinese medicine, because that's what I presume people who are going to watch this are interested in. Before I started studying and practicing Chinese medicine, I ran a natural food business. And the inspiration for that was my own ill health. I discovered natural diet. At the time, I followed a macrobiotic diet to kind of help heal myself of some problems that I had. So I became very inspired by the idea of treating disease through lifestyle, through behavior. So that's a thread that ran right through after I started studying and practicing Chinese medicine. I never thought that the role of a practitioner or a doctor was simply to administer treatment, but the role was greater than that. It was to inform and advise and just kind of be aware of those factors in a person's life that were contributing to their sickness. And that echoed, you know, I realize now, I guess I always knew, the opening of the Yellow Emperor's Classic, which I hope people know, at least have had a look at. It's just the first page. It's the very first thing that happens. Why are people sick nowadays? Why are they decrepit at the age of 50, where in the old days, and you have to remember this was written 2,000 years ago, in the old days they lived to be 100 and were sound and healthy. Why is that? And Chibo, the emperor's advisor, his answer was, well, it's lifestyle. They don't look after themselves. They don't sleep regularly. They drink too much. They eat whatever they want, etc., etc. And then in chapter 2, it says that the superior physician doesn't wait till a disease has arisen before administering treatment. That's compared to only starting to dig a well when you're thirsty already, or even dying of thirst, only starting to forge weapons when the battle is raging around you. It's too late. So that was a theme that we have to look at lifestyle. We have to look at, well, as widely as possible, you know, individual lifestyle, also social factors, economic factors, political factors, they all affect our health and well-being. So taking the slightly bigger picture was always a theme of my thinking. And the other thing is, through the discovery of natural foods, I became very wedded to ideas of sustainability, of organic food, of preserving the environment, of connecting with nature. And that continued for myself with a love of nature. I love being in nature. I love walking, hiking. Most of my holidays are hiking holidays. And I practice qigong. I practice qigong outside, and when I do, I stand like a tree. Imagine that I'm a tree with roots and branches reaching up to heaven, and I practice 5 animal qigong. So there are all these factors that contributed to a love of nature, a respect for nature, and a growing awareness, which we all have if we're paying attention, we're not in denial, that things are going pretty badly at the moment in the natural world.
Yes.
And the evidence, it's daily evidence now. It's not just that 20,000 scientists have just issued a report saying we are facing disaster in the not too distant future unless we change our ways. But we're seeing it all around us. I know in the States you're having bigger weather events, where those terrible fires in California.
Yes.
So you have more floods, more tornadoes. There's currently an unheard of fire raging through the Australian bush. They say they've never experienced anything like this. Today we have floods in the north of England greater than anything we've had this century. So this is not just a future problem, but it's a present problem. So I feel that I, with my own slant on things, and we, as practitioners of Chinese medicine, we have to step up now. We have to step up and act. We have to join the good guys. Not be lazy, not be in denial. We really have to play our part in trying to protect the planet. And that's what actually doctors, all medicine has always been at the forefront of community health and social health.
Yeah.
And as Chinese medicine practitioners, we should even be at the front of the medical profession, because our medicine is so rooted in nature. The core philosophies of Chinese medicine, of the great natural cycles of yin and yang, the web-like connections of the 5 phases that link us to animals and plants and so on. The concept of the body as a system of waterways. Everything really about our medicine is based on the natural world. So that is a long answer to what inspired the Chinese Medicine Forestry Trust. The final bit really of that is, perhaps like many people, I kind of felt desperate. I'm very aware of what's happening and just not knowing how to help or where to help. There are lots of things we can do as individuals. We can change our eating habits to be more sustainable. We can try and conserve energy. I have very reluctantly more or less stopped flying now. I love traveling to teach, but I've decided I certainly can't take any more long distance flights, and I'm trying to reduce to 0 short distance flights. We can support organizations that defend the environment. We can elect politicians who want to preserve the environment, and we can sack, I don't know if that sack is an American word, get rid of politicians, some of whom shall be nameless, get very close to where you guys are, who display an utter ignorant and vicious contempt for the environment, who are criminals. They're eco-criminals. They should be prosecuted. If, your president stands to be prosecuted for a lot of things, but I'd say number 1, for crimes against the environment. So we can take all these actions, but sometimes it's good to do something very simple. That is really effective, and taking direct action like that is also good for us, good for our mental health, because, you know, we can easily go into grief and fear, despair, feeling of impotence. So to plant a tree, one tree even, I mean, I don't know how many people have ever actually planted a tree. I'd never done it until I planted one in my garden last year, and this incredible sense of satisfaction to plant one single tree, a plum tree. Every tree we plant, every single tree, serves so many functions. It sequesters carbon, acts as a carbon sink. As you said in your introduction, gives forth oxygen. It soaks up floodwaters. And it's a home to hundreds, thousands of species, so it promotes wider biodiversity. And really interestingly, we have seemingly a special relationship with trees. When we look at trees, even when we look at photographs of trees, our physiology changes. It's quite extraordinary. I've talked, maybe should ask another question, but I can talk about that a bit, some of the evidence for
that. When I was 5 years old in kindergarten school here in Miami, I remember very vividly that in our class, they wanted us to plant trees for the front of the school. And I still carry that memory with me. And it was so fun. I think it was the first time that I actually planted a tree. And I currently live very close to that elementary school. And every time I drive by there, I see these mature trees that my class, my generation planted. There were seeds. And it's definitely a very powerful and rewarding experience to be able to see the journey of a tree from a seed to this massive, strong, deep roots, and to know that you yourself had a part in it. We, my wife and I are very big plant lovers. As you can see in the back, we have all these little plants. Some of them are definitely points of frustration. I had a bonsai that has been a little bit temperamental with me, but we're working through it. So I agree. If anyone watching us, if you guys have planted trees or plants and understand, definitely give us a thumbs up, or you can share your experiences in the chat box. But
just say a word about the trust. So obviously, if I want everybody involved in Chinese medicine throughout the world to regard this as our contribution, our Chinese medicine profession contribution to the welfare of the world. If you contribute to the trust, you don't get that personal experience that you had and I had with my little plum tree of digging the hole and planting the tree. That's special. But we're asking for donations, ideally regular donations, and we feed all the money, everything we get, into 3 tree planting organizations. So they operate through the world, and when they're operating in some of the poorer countries, where wages are relatively low, unfortunately, one of the pluses for tree planting is it's cheaper to plant a tree. So in the UK, you can spend equivalent between $10 and $20 to have one tree planted and protected, whereas when they plant trees in Africa or Ethiopia or Vietnam, so $1 a tree. So, you know, if a person contributes, say, $10 a month, you can go to bed every night and before you go to sleep, just remember that in the course of a year, you personally would have been responsible for planting, up to 100 trees, and that's special.
It is. That's very powerful. And I really liked how you put it, that this trust is not just one select group. It's all of us around the world as Chinese medicine practitioners, to view this trust as it's a part of all of us. And this is one important avenue that we know that is carefully run, that it is honest, and that it is there for the betterment of our environment and to help. So you mentioned you have 3 organizations that you work with: Woodland Trust, World Land Trust, and Tree Nation.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about how you went about in selecting these 3 organizations.
Okay, so the Woodland Trust is just in the United Kingdom where I live, but actually the UK is has the least forest cover of any country in Europe. The World Land Trust is headed by, I guess it's probably UK based, and I don't know if you know these people in the States, but it's headed by Sir David Attenborough, who makes all those wonderful nature programs, and Tree Nation, I think, is an American organization. What's important about them is, so you have, we've had for a while what are called carbon offset companies. People have been invited, I'm going to take a flight, and then instead of feeling guilty about my contribution to carbon in the atmosphere, I'm going to give some money to a carbon offset company. So quite a lot of those, my understanding is, they're kind of more tick box companies. They plant great plantations of monoculture trees, often the kinds of trees that don't really support wildlife, they don't support biodiversity. So yeah, it's good that they're planting trees, but it's so much less than could be done. What happens with these organizations, the 3 that we've chosen, is they plant a variety of trees. They plant trees appropriate to the locale. They plant trees that will support biodiversity and bring animals and birds and insects back to areas. And they use local labor, so they're also an economic benefit to the areas where they plant. So yeah, that's it really. I should say, also stress that the Chinese Medicine Forestry Trust is not a charity, but it is run under the auspices of a UK organisation called the Charities Trust, who are a charity. So all the money that people donate actually goes to them. So it goes, they supervise it, and then we tell them, send this much money to this organisation, and so on. So it's completely transparent.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So I wanted to invite all of you that are joining us live, if you have any questions or wanted to share your own personal stories and feelings about nature, please do so in the chat box, and I'll try and address them before we end our conversation today.
Can I just jump in with one more thing? Apologies, I don't want to
No, not at all.
cut you off, but so I mentioned in passing, there's really a lot of evidence now that contact with nature is, you can almost say it's essential for human health and well-being. There's lots of evidence that when people live or grow up in urban environments with no nature at all, much higher rates of mental disease and higher rates of disease. And even just being living somewhere where you can see a tree, as simple as that. Or you mentioned the room you're in. If in your office, in your clinic, you have one plant that already has a strange physiological impact. Having a plant in one's room lowers blood pressure. So when we are treating patients, if we take the wide view, and if we care for, if we take on a patient and we are trying to help them in their whole life and look at the whole picture, what's called now ecotherapy, which is encouraging people to connect with nature as part of healing, particularly of mental and emotional disease, but also physical disease, is the thing. So it's something I think that as practitioners of a all-embracing kind of medicine we should be aware of for ourselves, for our own health and well-being, because we have to start with ourselves, but also for our patients, whether we can encourage them to spend time in nature, to work in nature, to walk in nature, to garden, whatever.
Yes, thank you for saying that. I know that I wanted to ask you about the forest bathing, but before that, I've heard about earthing, the idea of there's some research on it, covering yourself in dirt or walking barefoot in dirt, and the minerals of the earth, of the soil, actually penetrates into your body and helps balance your pH, balances your nervous system. It helps you with anxiety, stress. I think this research that I had seen, a gentleman had issues walking, and he earthed himself every day, and he was able to regain his strength.
Okay.
So, yeah,
I don't know that research. I know it's a really nice idea. Yeah. I'm afraid because I practice qigong in the Chinese tradition, no bare feet, always wear shoes. It's just traditional in the qigong martial arts traditions, probably because, you get dirty feet, and then, I don't know. But yeah, it sounds great. And in summer, certainly when it's warm, I love walking barefoot, of course.
Mm-hmm. So tell us then about forest bathing.
Well, I don't actually know that much about it. What I do know is that it's a thing in Japan. Take these people, usually older people with health problems, particularly high blood pressure and high cortisol levels, taking them out to stroll in the woods, mindfully strolling. So not walking and talking, being quiet, smelling, looking, feeling, being aware. And it's very popular, increasingly popular in Japan. It seems to have really good benefits on things like lowering blood pressure. I mean, one of the things I mentioned in my book, Live Well, Live Long, that just an idea I came across that had an impact on me is, it's the Chinese word ziran, spelt in pinyin, Z-I-R-A-N. Chinese speakers, please excuse my pronunciation. But it's a Taoist term that means it's not really easy to translate. It means, translated as spontaneous or self-so, or maybe even you might say isness. So the natural world springs forth according to natural laws, and this incredible variety. I mean, every single plant, even if it's the same seed, the same species, will be different, will grow differently. So you have these natural forms, they're naturally occurring, growing according to natural laws, as we are. We are Ziran too. We all look different, we all grow differently. That's kind of naturalness, and it's in contrast to the designed environment. So I love cities too, but if we walk along a city street, the buildings, the sidewalk, the cars, the roads have all been consciously designed according to our laws. And because we grew, until the last sliver of human history, we were immersed in nature. We Ziran creatures are immersed in Ziran nature. It seems that it feeds us to see these forms, to see these wonderfully varied, spontaneous forms in a way that even the most useful and beautiful design forms don't feed us in that way.
Mm. Yes, it reminds me of the study of permaculture and how you use your environment to support each other. There's that feedback that you as an individual also have with your environment. Thank you for sharing that. So my last question, and I know it's kind of a meaty one, see if we can tackle it. So in Chinese medicine terms, and I think it flows well with what you had just mentioned, how, or does everyone, regardless of their elemental constitution, is it influenced the same by nature, or do we all respond to nature differently? Like a wood type responding to nature versus a fire type or a metal type. What have you noticed with that in regards to also your qigong and practicing in nature? How does that energetically impact the body?
Well, I'm afraid the simple answer is I don't know. But I can speak a little bit sort of tangentially to that. So it's not really the answer that you wanted, but so as far as qigong is concerned, qigong to me is so much about connecting with the natural world, heaven and earth, and connecting to air and water and trees. But one practice I do is, I mentioned before, is a 5 animal practice. It's something I teach, and each animal is linked to one of the 5 phases and to one of the zang fu, the organs of the body, or the zang. So the crane, for example, crane rises to heaven. The body's very light when we do crane qigong, and it pertains to the lung. So by contrast, for example, the bear is is related to earth and the stomach and spleen, and is really, get down, hug the earth, move low and on the earth, and then, you get the others. So what I have noticed is that these are easier for some. One particular animal is easier for some people or harder for some people. And I really emphasize that people should do the one that's hard for them. And some people are very kind of unearthed, love the crane, they may be a bit thin and tall and a bit crane-like, thin legs, and they love the feeling of being this tall, elegant bird flying up to heaven. They need to do the bear. They need to get down and root. And then, the really earthy types who are a bit too earthbound need to do the crane. We need to do all of them because we're balancing 5 qualities. Each animal has a particular form, but it also has a particular characteristic. So they sort of harmonize us and cultivate us on quite a deep level, I think, So it's not quite the same thing, but that's the best I can do for that question.
No, that's perfect. I know that we have a couple of people joining us today that are that practice qigong and tai chi, so I think that they really loved that you were able to share that. So thank you so much for that information. And thank you for spending time with me and sharing with us this new venture of yours, the Chinese Medicine Forestry Trust. I encourage all of you to go to the website. Simple Chinese Medicine Forestry Trust.com is the US site. And there's articles and information for you to read and reference as well for yourself and for your patients. Donate, as Peter mentioned, $1 can equal 1 tree. So imagine if you just did a recurring $10 a month, that's nothing. Unfortunately, it's not even enough gas in your car, but it's something for our planet and our world. So thank you for taking the time to chat with me today, to share this with me and with everyone that is joining us today. Is there anything that you would like to share with us or remind us, or a piece of advice before you go?
Well, I was, okay, you asked, after, when we finished this, I thought, I should have talked about this or that, but just the first thing that came to my head, I was talking to a friend a couple of nights ago, and I was just saying how I believe in self-cultivation. I think however you want to look at it, I remember a long time, I'm not religious at all, but a long time ago reading a Christian idea that we're not actually born with a soul. We have to nourish and cultivate and develop a soul. So, I've always felt that we need to work on ourselves as a project, so that if we're lucky enough to live long, we end up as wise elders, rather than ignorant and grumpy old people who complain about everything all the time. And I was just saying that, we know what is required. We know what the ingredients, they're going to vary a bit, but we broadly know the ingredients of a good life. And, one can even write them down. So I was on the top of my head saying, okay, I have to cultivate my body every day because I want it to last as long as possible and be as strong and fit and flexible as possible. I want to do something to cultivate my mind, mind meditation or meditation within qigong. Diet, I want to eat well, and love food and enjoy food, and I want to make sure I have enough time in my life for friends, to invest in friendship, and to take care of my friends and make sure I don't kind of lose connection with them, and feed them, because I love cooking. That's a nice way to do it. And perhaps not everybody, but for me, to have music in my life, and to have nature in my life, and to have creativity in my life, and to have family, loving relationships. So, these are pretty simple things we all know, but it's so easy in life to forget them. We can go through periods of life where we're so busy that we don't look after our bodies, or we don't spend enough time with friends. So I think it was a kind of a checklist, or maybe a juggling act. You have sort of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 balls in the air, and we don't really want to drop any of them. So that's my advice.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. And thank you for sharing that concept, that Christian concept. It's a new one for me. The idea that we're not born with a soul, that we cultivate our soul and build our soul throughout life. And that's a new perspective for me. Definitely something to contemplate. And thank you. Thank you for all your wisdom. Thank you for everything that you've contributed to our profession. You are definitely a gift for all of us. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Natalia.
And thank you everyone for joining us. The website again, because someone asked, is the Chinese Medicine Forestry Trust.com. And I will have the recording up soon for all of you to rewatch and enjoy all these juicy tidbits that Mr. Peter Deadman was able to share with us today. So thank you again. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Thank you, Peter. Have a wonderful day.
Hey. Goodbye, whoever's watching. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.